What's going on, guys? It's Mohammed, the host of Aware Alpha, and welcome to episode 92. I just want to say I'm feeling super grateful and excited and thankful the fact that I have a platform where I share my ideas, thoughts, values, and everything that I've experienced with similar guests. And there are people that are listening to it, people that are taking this information and actually doing something with it to inspire change in their own lives, heal their childhood traumas, make their business happen, whatever it is that they're taking away from this. I'm absolutely super grateful for it. And today we have another amazing guest. She goes by the name of Kyra. I met her a couple of weeks ago at a music festival, and even when prior to even meeting her in person, I seen her around the festival. And after meeting her, seeing what she does, and I actually attended one of her workshops at the festival, it was already just set in my mind that I definitely got to bring this queen onto the podcast and pick her brain. So she is a somatic dance coach, a medicine woman, and just overall healer is what she feels like to me. So with that being said, Kyra, welcome to the Aware Alpha podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm feeling so grateful. Yeah, grateful that we met, and also grateful, just to be here experiencing your magic and seeing what unfolds.
I love it. I just love your energy, from the moment that I met, and I'm very like energetically aware, one could say, or I operate more energetically than I do physically or in words. So I'm super grateful that we met, and I just absolutely love your energy. One of the questions that comes to my mind is that why would one want to practice somatic dance?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, such a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, why would one want to practice somatic dance? I think even before diving into that question, really laying the foundation for what is somatic dance. So somatic dance is really an opportunity for people to be with their felt sense. And their felt sense are the sensations that are happening inside of your body. So an example that I always give is when you have that feeling of like a lump in your throat, or like a tightening in your stomach, or a heaviness in your body, or like a fluttering in your chest of excitement. Those are all of our felt sensations that are happening in response to our life experiences. And so somatic dance really gives us the opportunity to be with those felt sense and the sensations, the emotions that are present in our body. And in a way that is rooted in self-expression. There are a lot of somatic practices where we get to really be with our emotions, our sensations. And the really beautiful piece about integrating dance with somatics is you actually get to express what's within you through your physical body. So it's a process of alchemy. And to answer your question, why is that important? It's really essential because as we be with uncomfortable, pleasant, a different array of emotions and sensations, as we be with them and express them, we get to either compound them, expand them if it's something like joy or gratitude or pleasure, or we get to process things like grief and sadness and anger and allow the space for those emotions to dissipate. So it's really a beautiful process of being with ourselves, letting it formulate in the physical body so that we can create space or expand more of the good stuff.
I love that. I have so many questions, but so now I love the idea of releasing, uncomfortable emotions, running them through our body, grief and sadness and stuff like that through movement. I do a lot of that. And now I would want to expand the good feelings, like let's say joy. How could I expand joy through somatic dance in my body?
Yeah, so good. Okay, yeah. I really, yes. Okay, Okay, so this is so relevant actually. Often in our lives, we come at things of like, what do I need to fix? What do I need to change? What do I need to get rid of? And the coming into a practice from like, how can I expand this? How can I add on is so different for us. And it is really stepping into a new paradigm, a paradigm of yeah, compounding the good stuff. And so when we feel that part of us that's alive and feels really open or joyful, when we start to tune into that space and move it through our body, we can actually grow it. Like physically, we can grow it in our body. So if it's, let's say the joy is really in my heart space and I'm feeling like, wow, I feel so happy and light in my heart, I can move with that. And through moving with that, I can feel it. Literally, this has happened to me and many of my clients. You feel it start to move to different parts. Like, oh, now my hands really feel the joy. My whole body starts to feel it. I start to feel the joy expanding out of my body. I start to see other people that are in joy. And so it's like, as we pay more attention to the parts of us that feel really light and love and joy, we can grow them through that expression and through that curiosity of how does this feel in my body and where does it want to go.
I love that. It's like, as you were just mentioning, so it's like you just give it a good definition. So it's like, I'm feeling joy. And what you were talking about is that, yeah, I can feel joy right now. And then through somatic dance, it's almost like, or even just giving that joy attention, now I'm embodying it. Now I'm like expressing it. And the more I express it, the more I give it attention, the more in a way it's being expanded through all other parts of myself. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. And we can do a little practice in this moment of like, we can be with our breath and notice the quality of our breath right here, right now. And then in being with our breath, we can notice what feels really good. And so for me, it feels really good to breathe into my rib cage. And so I can expand that and compound that by really slowing down and expanding even more, giving my full presence to my breath and where it feels good to breathe into. And the more that I give that attention and presence, the more that feeling of bliss will expand with each breath. So we can do this anytime, really. We can do this with any emotion that feels uplifting and positive and light and energizing. And as we do this, we actually support ourselves to be with the uncomfortable. Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I do this, I feel like I do this a lot, but like the listeners, I hope that they take this away from this podcast already, because a lot of us are doing like just so much doing all the time, and the recipe and the magic is actually in the being, right? And actually taking the time to just be with the emotions, whether if they're uncomfortable or not, or whatever it is. And then what you just shared was just another level of being. It's all like 10x the beings, like you are being, and then you're really in this moment, breathing into these parts of yourself, right? Ooh, I love that. I feel like we could have just charged for this part already, and we haven't even started the podcast already.
I
Oh
love it.
man, that's amazing. So I have been, working through healing a lot of trauma. I had a very intense childhood, and I'm 32. When I was like 28, 29, I came out of a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and I went in there to just learn how to become more calm. But I came out of it, opened this big can of worms that started a 4 or 5 year journey where I'm still on this journey, healing a lot of parts of myself, loving a lot of parts of myself, all that stuff. And I discovered ecstatic dancing through one of my, um, retreats that I went to, and I always loved to dance. Like I always just loved it. But then ecstatic dance was something that was just totally different, where I was not in my mind, I was in my body. And I just love to move. I love to just shake off. And then I started to realize that I'm actually shaking off, releasing a lot of emotions, suppressed emotions through. And I have had many sessions with myself where I danced, I open the hips and I start crying, I start laughing, I start giggling, so it's been very transformative for me, right? And only recently through you is when I learned like somatic movement and somatic dance. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, what's the difference between these two? What's the difference between somatic dance and ecstatic dancing?
Yeah, so beautiful, and like it's a hot topic. And I mean,
It's juicy, very juicy.
Yeah. And all that I share here is coming from my own life experience, my own trainings, my own beliefs, and opinions. So there's definitely no like set like definition, or this is what it is and this is what it's not. So I'm really speaking from what I believe and what I stand for. So within ecstatic dance, there's so many different methodologies, right? We have 5 rhythms, which is really focused on like staccato, flow, chaos, stillness. There's those different rhythms. Then there's other methodologies that are more about connecting with others, like core connections. There's Kundalini ecstatic dance, which is really activating that dormant Kundalini energy, getting it to rise using breath and dance and voice. So there's so many different methodologies within the umbrella of ecstatic dance. And what I have really found through those methodologies of ecstatic dance is there's so much power in the music and the movement and really going inside to have a journey, whatever that journey may be. And that was actually my entry point into deepening my experience with movement medicine and how I found myself in the somatic world. And so somatics is, I would say it's a deepening into that felt sense that I shared before. And it's really an unveiling of how can we go deeper? How can we go deeper into sensation? How can we go deeper into emotion, heal our traumas, integrate, and also through a lens that we don't always need music as well. In the ecstatic dance realm, we often have a really strong relationship with music. Music is the driving force. With somatic dance, you can practice it in silence. You can practice it with your breath, with the sounds of nature, and have a really deep and profound experience. And with somatic dance, it's also linking to a whole breadth of work by psychotherapists and also movement therapists and like attachment therapy. So we're getting all of these different lineages and breadths of work that influence how we're showing up as facilitators and participants in the space. And so for me, somatic dance has a really deep portal. It's like a deep portal. Like ecstatic dance is also a deep portal. And for me, I have found somatic dance to be even deeper. I think because of all of the lineage behind it and
Mm,
the way that we are speaking to the body is
mm,
different. There's different language, there's different ways of facilitating and holding that space. So
mm.
both are valuable. Both are impactful and have nuances and flavors. And for me, I really see the deepening and the magic that's in somatic dance at this point in my journey. So
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And what
yeah.
you did at the festival, the workshop that you hosted, would you have said that's a somatic kind of? Okay, nice.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, so Pleasure Playground was what you experienced, and that is, yeah, that was a somatic dance, really focused on pleasure, like
Mm,
finding the pleasure of your skin,
mm,
below that, your flesh, your bones, really activating different points within the body to find new forms of pleasure.
mm. No,
Yeah.
that's good. I loved it, and it was interesting actually because the what did you call it? Pleasure playground?
Pleasure Playground.
Pleasure playground. That was amazing for me because I work a lot with sexual energy. I work with men, helping them heal their sexual energy, get over watching pornography. That's one of my programs. So that whole movement was just very just beautiful for me because like I said, I already do a lot of movement and stuff like that. But that, yeah, that was just very deep. And I think the way you facilitated it was just absolutely amazing. I wasn't even in my head, I was just in my body. And it's like I could have done that for like another 4 hours. Like I just have so much more energy to just let it out and move and move. And I was like you could have just, yeah, like I was like, I could have just been there for, like another 3, 4 hours. Just like just keep facilitating this event, Kyra. Cause like I just want like I got a lot to express, I got a lot to express. So no, that was amazing. So my question is the women that come into your program and they take this, let's say they're into somatic dance and they want to, take your medicine. What have you experienced? Like, what is the reason a lot of these women are coming into your program for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's great. So far, I have found that a lot of the women who are coming into my world really want to lead from an embodied space. They want
Mhm.
to show up in their lives in an embodied way. And in order for us to be living embodied lives, we have to feel safe in our feeling body. So we
Mm,
have to be able to be with the uncomfortable feelings, the good feelings. We also need to create a really deep relationship with our body, know what
mm,
we're feeling, and through being able to be with our body, have a deep connection to our intuition, our inner voice. And so a lot of the women that join my programs, come to my workshops, are already interested in discovering that within themselves,
mm,
and also integrating a lot of their lived traumas and pain so that they can free up space
mm,
to live a life that's on purpose, to live a life where they are creating the reality that they desire. And
mm.
we need embodiment to do that. And we need
Yes.
somatics to do that.
No, it's amazing. Like from my experience, I feel like, a lot of us are dealing with childhood traumas. Some of us are, of course, traumas can happen late in your lives as well, but just the beginning, there's a lot of people, most of us are dealing with some type of childhood trauma. And then, you grow up, you're 20, 25, 30, 35, you realize like, holy crap, I have all this trauma. I gotta like do something. You can take the route with the institutions and establishments, like medical establishments, psychotherapist, psychologist, therapist, counselor. They provide you the medications, all stuff. Or you decide to do it holistically, meditation, journaling, inner child work, ego work,
Mm-hmm.
shadow work. And then you do all that too. And you're like, okay. But then through that discovery, you realize these tools like, okay, journaling, sitting with my emotions, acknowledging my emotions, crying, this stuff is all ways for me to release and heal my childhood trauma. And then you discover dancing, movement. And then this is how maybe you discover ecstatic dance or somatic dance. And it's like, oh, wow, I am very well aware that I have all these suppressed emotions from when I was a child. And this tool right here is going to help me, unsuppress, I don't even know if that's a word, but unsuppress a lot of these emotions and bring them back up. And the more I do this, the lighter I become, and the lighter I become, the more embodied I become, right? So that's my assumption of like most people come into the space is because they want to heal their childhood traumas, right? Which comes to the question for me about Kyra. How did you get into this? Like what, like, I don't imagine you just woke up one day and you were like, oh, somatic dance, baby, like, like what led you to where you are now, what's your story?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, I feel like I've lived lifetimes.
I feel like we lived a couple of those lifetimes together.
Yeah, probably. I love it. Yeah, I grew up dancing in a studio, so I have the technical side of like ballet and modern and jazz. And from 8 till probably 16 years old, I wanted to be a ballerina. And a really painful point in my journey through dance was being told I would never be a ballerina, that I didn't have the body type, that I didn't have the turnout, the XYZ in order to really fulfill that as a career. And so that was like a really big turning point in my journey of okay, if all these people say I can't do this, like what do I want to do, and how does dance light me up? And that really led me into contemporary dance. And then from there, exploring contemporary dance and improvisation, expression, I found ecstatic dance and somatic dance. And so that's kind of like my journey through dance as a pedagogy. Outside of that, I had I have a really interesting dynamic actually. So my mom, my grandparents were missionaries, Christian missionaries, so very at the forefront with Christian philosophy and old, marriage, all this good stuff and like rules. So my mom actually had me when she was 22 out of wedlock. And so already there's like a shifting there with me entering the world of like, I'm coming into this space. In a different dynamic than that family, I would say appreciated or believed. So from there, like, and this is really actually interesting and alive for me right now. A lot of what I have been working through is like, I deserve to be here. Like, I belong here. Like, it is a part of my spiritual journey and like life purpose to be on this planet in this time. And one of the most miraculous things is dance has really brought that alive for me. Being in my body has affirmed so much within me that yes, I belong here. I belong in this body, in this feeling, expressive body. And I would say like everything that's happened along the way, like childhood traumas and really big life shifts have always come back to like this inner knowing that I've cultivated, that I belong here and I belong in my body, and being in my body is such a beautiful gift. And so from that place, I invite others to be in their bodies and to create that safety.
So first question, what's a wedlock?
Oh, like marriage. She wasn't married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought that was
yeah.
like an arranged marriage or something. That's, I don't know what.
No,
Okay.
no.
And the second
Yeah.
question is, how do you feel in your mind?
Mm-hmm. In my mind. How do I feel in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I mm.
I'm here with you. You're safe.
Yeah, I don't like I definitely stray away from spending time in the ruminating space of the
Mm,
mind. Like so many of us spend so much time in stories and in narratives in our minds. And I really view my mind as a space for analyzing, processing, sending messages to my
mhm,
body and creating.
mm,
And so I would say like my relationship with my mind, especially over the past 7 years, has really transformed. Where like um I have shifted like negative self-talk. Like negative self-talk is not something that comes up for me that much
mm,
anymore because I have been so active in like stopping it and really
mm,
being with my body sensations. And so to answer your question, I feel more spacious in my mind
mm,
and more focused and aware.
mm,
So if I do catch myself like, oh, I'm making a story about something, or oh, I'm like trying to figure something out, I now have the embodied awareness to stop in the moment and be like, okay, where is this actually coming from? This
mm,
rumination, this spiraling in my mind. Oh, it's actually coming from a part of me that's afraid, or a part of me that's worried about failing or
mhm,
being judged. So yeah, I would say my relationship to my mind is way different than it used to be, and
mm,
more quote unquote like healthy. Like I feel
mm.
healthy in my mind space.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good. I asked that because like we want to get into the body and feel the body and feel what's, the body, it has its own wisdom, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
the mind also has its own wisdom, and we don't want to run from the mind. We want to, we just want to be the master of it. We
Yeah.
want to still be able to sit with it, and we don't want to get to a one practice so deeply to where, like, let's say, into the body. So now we get so attached to that practice that we are running away from a part of ourselves, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the full embodiment, I would imagine, is to be okay and to sit with all parts of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
The ego, the inner child, the authentic self, the mind, the body, all these different names and labels there is, right? But I think that would be the goal. No, that's awesome. I love that you share that. So now let's say like you feel, not good enough, or like maybe you have
Mm.
feelings that come up that you're like, I should have been, Olympic 2022 ballerina of the year. I don't even know if people in ballerina go to the Olympics, but just assume, and then let's say you're like, wow, like I didn't end up, making that, like, I am a somatic dance teacher. This is just an example.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with that feeling of, let's say, unworthiness, or not being good enough, or not achieved what you wanted to achieve, or just like any type of feelings that are not good? What do you do? How do you
Mm-hmm.
deal with that? I don't know. And I ask that is because I'm like, probably not every time, like let's say you're where you like get your toolbox of somatic dance, like I'm sure like there's other
Mm-hmm.
things that you might do. It's not like you feel sad, you're like, oh, I gotta move this, I gotta move this, I gotta move this. Like I imagine there's other things that happen prior to that. So yeah, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I move a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm definitely not like dancing all through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about just the kind of like, so there's somatic dance and then there's also just different somatic practices. And so a holistic somatic practice, like you can be in your body at any time. You could be standing in a line at the coffee shop and someone cuts in front of you and pisses you off, and you can use a somatic tool to be like, okay, what am I feeling? I'm feeling like a tightening of my chest, and I really want to say like F you or something, you know, or like I'm noticing in my mind, I'm making a story and I'm starting to sweat and I feel irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Somatics really supports us to be with all that's happening in the present moment. So the thoughts that are arising, the emotions and the sensations. So I would say like, yeah, I'm always striving to be responsible for what is happening in the moment. And through that responsibility, yeah, I have the ability to respond. I have the ability to respond to a part of me that feels angry or sad or is doubting my capabilities. And yeah, I feel like where we can lose the balance is if we're only trying to like be in our head and like think like, oh, like why am I so afraid of failing? Like, well, why is that happening? What happened before that made me so afraid of failing? You know, like that's quite actually aligned with talk therapy. Talk therapy, you're going through the whole scenario, you're talking about it, you're thinking about it, and sometimes we can get too far in that realm. And so having, exactly as you said, that balance between like the analyzing and processing as well as the feeling and being with what's here. So for me, yeah, anytime that like something challenging arises, I mean, first I try not to make it like this is bad or like, oh, this is, you know, it's information. I'm gaining insight into myself, and then from there, how do I want to respond? How do I want to be with this?
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between, or is it the same thing, a feeling and an emotion? Are they the same
Mm-hmm.
thing?
Yeah, I'd like kind of interchange. For me, like feeling, I interchange them. Feeling slash emotion would be like, I feel sad. That would be like, oh, I feel sad, or a part of me feels sad. And then the sensation of that could be like, my arms feel so heavy and the back of my neck is so tight, you know, so that we have an emotion that we feel. We also have a sensation that we feel. And so I interchange them, which, yeah, it can get confusing.
No, it makes sense. The
Yeah.
sensation is the feeling, and the emotion is like, you know, like I'm feeling sad right now. That's the emotion. And then the feeling that you get from that emotion is the sensations, and those sensations would be the feeling. Wow, I just like answered my own question through you.
I love it.
Perfect. I love that. So now on a practical level, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. So what is the best way to release or feel an emotion?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I would invite or encourage not even entering with like, how can I release this emotion? How can I within myself hold space for this emotion and sensation? And having that be the entry point already creates a sense of curiosity of like, what's actually here? What's here? And what do I need to be with this emotion and sensation? So when we enter from that point of deep inner listening and curiosity, it gives ourselves space to hold what's arising. And as we're holding what's arising, we can respond. We can give ourselves what we need. If we need to self-soothe, if we need to shake our shit out, if we need to go co-regulate in nature with a friend. So then it becomes more of a practice around what am I experiencing in my emotional body and my physical body, and how can that deepen my self-awareness.
Is it like,
I answered?
Yeah, like, because what happens is there's a lot of times, like, I could just be hanging out, sitting on the couch, and all of a sudden I feel uncomfortable, feeling loneliness, sadness, something just comes up. Oh, she doesn't love me, whatever the thought is. And then I can like ask, like, I put my hand on my heart and say, hey, what do you need the most from me right now? And then like the answer will come like dance. So, and then I just put some on and I move and I dance and everything, right? So is that what you mean, where like you just listen to the inner guide and just do what comes up in a way?
Yeah, there's also like, okay, we can use the example of a part that's feeling lonely. So we can deepen into that, like first validating, like, okay, yeah, I totally see that there's a part of me that feels lonely. I see that, I get that. And then from this space, like, what is this lonely part either wanting or not wanting? Like, this part doesn't want to be alone, or this part wants deep, meaningful connection. Right. So then we're getting to that space of like, what is our heart's truest desire? And then we can go even deeper into what is this lonely part afraid of? What is it worried about? Is it worried it will be in this state forever? Is it afraid that this feeling will never go away? And so we can start to really have this conversation with our parts, where we're pulling back layers, pulling back layers, pulling back layers. And as we pull back those layers, we start to see the unintegrated parts. Those parts from our childhood that maybe felt abandoned or neglected or felt alone. And as we start to give ourselves that time and space in the present moment, we integrate those charged emotions and those charged energies into the present. So then that's where we start to free up that space and get that release, that sense of inner peace. But we're not starting with like, how can I release this sadness? Because then we're already coming at it from a place of ambition and an outcome. And we miss the glorious, juicy part of like inquiry and curiosity and depth.
And sitting with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Really being with it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Amazing. So your work these days, do you only work with women or do you work with men as well?
Yeah, recently I shifted more into working with women through like courses and mentorship and that kind of thing. I do events that are for men and women, and then my one-on-one programming is open to men as well.
Okay, well, that's awesome. So what's this whole Kundalini? Like, I feel like I still don't really know what it means or understand it, even though it's been in my attention span these last few years. Just come and it's come and go, and someone talked about it or someone mentioned something or did like a meditation, but like I still feel like I don't understand what it is.
Yeah, fair. And I mean, I only speak from what I know, and what I have learned is it's like an energy portal at the base of our spine. And because we often move through the world without movement, without breath, without a mind to body connection, that energy lays dormant. And so when we wake up, when we activate our kundalini through movement and breath and chanting and different practices, we actually create new neural pathways. We create new mind to body connections that are going to alter like our energetic frequency, so our energy field, but it also brings up some of those unintegrated emotions. It moves trapped energy that's in our physical body. So essentially I think of kundalini as like a rich energy portal that has been that's untapped. And so when we tap into it through dance, yoga, meditation, all those juicy things, then we start to awaken that energy and that creativity, and we expand our energetic field, our auric field, become more magnetic, all this kind of stuff. That's what I know so far, and I haven't done the deep dive into the science. I've been more interested in like experiencing kundalini yoga, kundalini dance, and how it impacts my body and whatnot.
I wonder, like, is it sexual energy, or are these two different things?
To me, it feels like primal, primal life force energy. And I feel like that is connected to our sexuality and our sexual expression, because our sexuality is so rooted in like creation, the birthing of life. And so that energy force is innately going to be connected to sexuality and the full expression of our being, because as human beings we're sexual beings, and we express ourselves that way. So there is a connection. I wouldn't say it's like at the forefront, but definitely my embodiment and activation of kundalini is through that sensual expression, like through the hips and through the spine and using the voice, and
makes total sense. I'm curious, this question just came to me. So like, you host a lot of workshops, and as an embodied woman, how do you feel when you see a man dancing at your workshops that's just fully all in? Like, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel so good. I think, okay, like this is the best actually like memory that I have from one of my mentors, who's a 5 rhythm teacher, and he shared that if you're a cis man and you want to be a really good lover, you need to be able to dance and move your body. And like, for me, when I see men who are so like fully expressed and in their bodies, I see this really divine balance between their divine masculine and their divine feminine. And it's like, I think it's a turn on, it's like, wow, you're so brave that you can be in your body and embrace your self-expression and hold that. Like, wow, that's huge. I think I would encourage more men to experience dance and self-expression through their body.
No, for sure.
Magical.
I'm 100% about it. Like, I definitely want, and I just talk a lot about from a healing aspect. So, but like, for pleasure as well. There's so many, like, movement, dance. It's like just so much to it. And like, I just have a way, like, I love to express myself, but I notice that when I'm around people, like in a festival or something, that I can tell more men are not like as loose as me, where like I am like in my body, I have no care. Like, you're in my world and you're watching me do what I'm doing, right? And I wish that upon other men, to fully just be okay with expressing yourself. And just it's the balance of the masculine and feminine energy, right? I actually went
Yeah.
to a festival a couple of months ago, and like at the end, one of the guys came up to you, he's like, man, he's like, I love the balance, I love just like the masculine energy and the feminine. She's like, last night you were dancing so wild, and then
Yeah.
did like a 24-hour silent retreat the next day after, and we were just fully silent. And like he's like, to the day I could see like this savage in your eyes, like you were in a different world. And but like that was one of the sweet compliments I got from a man that was like pretty
Mm.
well just aware in his own body. And he's like, and I never heard it like that, the balance of
Mhm.
masculine and feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I feel, and I talk a lot about this on social media, is that the more I tap into my feminine energy, the more masculine I feel. The more
Mhm.
I've integrated these feelings and these emotions, these energies, just yeah, the more manly I feel. Like it just like I love to move my body, and at the same time I can make decisions and have business and life and work on my body and all this other stuff that makes me a man or a human being, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just curious, because I'm always intrigued by what an aware woman says about a
Mhm.
man who dances and all the stuff like that.
Yeah. Ooh, I have one thing to add. I think also like a man who is brave enough to move his body and express himself through his body is also breaking paradigms.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking paradigms that have said like men are not expressive, men don't need to feel their emotions. So every time that I see a man express through his body and be in his body, I'm like, it's a big heck yes for me, because it's like you are also breaking the paradigms that don't serve men, women, all people.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's empowering
Mm.
to witness, and also I can imagine for men who take that brave stand and do move their bodies and deepen into themselves, like that's empowering. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it was actually, yeah, your workshop. My friend after was like, you were like humping the floor. I was like, I was in the zone. I was in the zone, man. Like I don't even know what was
Yes.
going on. I was just, when the music is playing, when somebody's facilitating, I am in the moment. Like, there's nothing else that can influence what's happening. So no, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, you definitely do host a great class. Like what you did there, that
Mm-hmm.
was beautiful. I am definitely looking forward to just dancing with you. Like I don't even know if
Mm-hmm.
it's a workshop or not. Like I look forward to dancing with you more for sure. Just
Yeah.
it's very healing, and I'm very grateful that we met. Um Question. I'm very new to this concept myself, and
Mm.
I'm new in Medicine Hat here, and it's interesting. I've only been here for a couple of months yet. I have like this strong, amazing soul family of friends, females, males, and I've just like built a life here already. And a lot of times I
Mm.
find I'm like, wow, it's so crazy. I've only been here for a couple of months. And like my whole life is actually in Ontario, but yet I have like this life here too, and this soul family and everything.
Right.
What are your thoughts on soul connections? Do you believe that
Mm.
certain souls, like let's say I meet you and I'm like, wow, Kyra, like Kyra, how are you
Yeah.
doing? And it's like, and then you meet somebody else where you're like, hey, what's going on? And like you just feel you feel cold in a way. Like you
Mm.
don't feel like there's that like hot connection. So it's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and from my experience in the last probably year or so, where I have been expanding my mind, learning more things about where like when I meet someone and I'm like, I feel this resonance, it's
Mm-hmm.
because on a soul level, this her soul and my soul, we have lived a couple of lifetimes already. And based on
Mm-hmm.
how deep that resonance is, it will tell me how many lifetimes we have already lived with each other.
Right.
So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, this goes into like a whole, probably like a 2 hour conversation about past lives and like, yeah, soul journeys and
Mm,
beliefs on that. What I really, what I can really get behind in this moment is like, I believe that, yeah, each soul has a resonance based on their ancestral lineage, based on their life experience, what they've encountered, and that resonance supports the connection between different beings. And so I find that, like, yeah, there are so many people that I'm like, whoa, we have a soul connection. And then as I start to deepen in, I realize, like, oh, we actually have a lot of shared life experiences, shared values. We've dabbled in similar, like, force fields and spiritual practices and this kind of thing. And so we're vibrating at a similar wavelength, and that creates that super potent connection. Yeah.
I love that. You said, yeah, you said some stuff about like the past life, past life connections, and also you said something else that soul, some, yeah, which I was like, wow, I gotta Google, or probably have to bring her on another podcast, because yeah, like I'm very intrigued by these things, and I want to learn more about it, just because, yeah, like I've met some amazing like my soul sisters in the last few months here, and I'm like, how could that even be possible? Because I came from a totally different continent. Like I live, I grew up in the Middle East. So it's just like, if I never actually came here, like we would have never met, but yet we have lived a couple other lives before this, right? So it's like, for me, I'm just very intrigued by it. And like at this stage of my life where, yeah, it's just like, you have your biological family, and then you have your like soul family. And my soul family, I continuously am meeting them more and more and more. And I think this goes back into, because I am embodying who I really am and my own truth, which means that the more I embody this, and like I meet people that are exactly alike, that are, yeah, like my soul family, that we have this past life connection, all these things, right? It's interesting.
Yes.
I like
it. I just got goosebumps. So good.
Yeah, no, I think it's, yeah, like I said, it's very interesting for me. And at the festival, when I seen you, and like for me, I'm just very heart-centered, heart-oriented, in intuitive, like in my mind, I'm feeling things, and so it's like when I seen you, I remember seeing you, and like you were dancing, and you hadn't even come over yet. And I just felt something. I was like, that person, like, like I just felt them, like that person, like there's some kind of familiarity, you know what I mean? Maybe it's just your personality, expression, whatever it was, right? But it's interesting, and I love it. I love just continuing being myself, because the more I meet individuals like yourself, is more just like a justification of that I am on the right path, doing the right things, and continue to express myself in the way that I do. So as we finish off this podcast, like I do have a lot of other questions. I think we could probably talk forever here. Just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your medicine. It was juicy. Your energy is contagious. I'm sure everyone that listens to this podcast will take something away from it. And please let everybody know where they can find you. And then I'm going to add your details in the section for people to find when they listen to it on any platform that they listen to.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Best place to find me is on Instagram right now. Embodied _woman_. And then I have links and email and all that stuff there.
Okay, perfect. So no, yeah, I'll definitely enter that there. And
Cool.
see, like I said, Kyra, thank you so much for this. This was amazing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to coming out to Calgary and seeing you and attending whatever else you got. And if you ever come to Medicine Hat, you are welcome here. And I'm sure we'll make something happen. So thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Yes, I will. And as we finish off this podcast here, guys, I just want to set some intentions that, you spend about an hour of your time listening to this podcast, and I hope that you take something away from it. I hope that you take something away from it and start to practice it on a practical level in your day-to-day life. I hope that you start to discover the divine being that you are. I hope that you discover that you can be anything you put your mind to. I hope that you discover all these tools that we shared on this episode, and you start to practice them and become a much more whole and embodied human being. And until next time, stay an aware alpha.